So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm excited to share that Tina Angeli will be speaking with us. She is a psychic and medium and the owner of the source of Unconditional Love, the S.O.U.L Center in Granby, Connecticut. Tina has been in communication with angels, guides, and loved ones in spirit since she was a child in Italy. She has also been a co-facilitator of the near-death experience support group at UConn Health Center in Farmington, where we all used to meet. And she's been a member of that group for 25 plus years. At the age of 2 years old, Tina experienced her first spiritually transformative experience. This momentous event was an emotional spiritually transformative experience, or STE. Since then, she has processed an uncanny awareness. She's possessed an uncanny awareness of her connection with spirit. In her mid-20s, Tina drowned in a pond and underwent an NDE. This was when she had a life review. Tina's most recent NDE happened on January 5th, 2012, when she died in a serious car accident. Although her 3 STEs came to pass about 30 years apart from each other, both the first and the second ones are as vivid as the most recent one. So tonight, in January of 2012, during her near-death experience, she met up with 9 entities. She learned their name, Lords of Karma. And tonight she's going to share information about her further communication that she's had with them. And she learned their names just before she self-published her book. And that's available in the flyer that we sent out. So with that, I'm going to, We Are Angels is the text that Tina wrote. It's really a wonderful text. Thank you so much for writing that, Tina. And with that, I'm going to turn over the microphone to Tina.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate this. And it's interesting, although it's been so long since I've had these experiences, right now I'm feeling very emotional in sharing them again. But I can say, though, that I will not get into too many details about them because I want to concentrate on sharing about the Lords of Karma. Now, I've been interviewed on YouTube multiple times. So anybody that wants to hear my story, more details, they can go there and check it out. Okay. So my first one again was the emotional life transforming event. That's when my sister died, and my parents were especially my father was kind of blaming me for her death. And it was very, very hurtful. But I also know that there was a reason for that, because I feel that at that point, I also was absorbing the energy of compassion. And then when I was in my 20s, I died at a pond. My children were there. My ex-husband was there. And in that experience, it was very, very unusual, because it was like a life review. I saw my life with my ex-husband in other previous lifetimes where I actually died at his hands from abuse. And this lifetime was also very abusive. And I was basically told as I was doing my life review, while I was still swallowing water, that I didn't have to, it was going to only get worse, and I didn't have to go through it. And I also remember that I was filled with this incredible focus and strength to be able to go through the divorce, which, because of the density of the energy on the earth, it took a while still, but I did it. And so that was very, very powerful. I was very focused, very strong. And I knew that I needed to get out of there, not only for my own safety and mental health, but also to show my children that that was not the way a woman was supposed to be treated by a man. And so that was that. And then in 2012, that's when I died at the car crash. And that's when I met up with 9 entities. And Jack was kind enough to volunteer to create the artwork for those entities, and my soul being in front of them, which I put it on the top of the that chapter, my miracle car crash. That's what I call that chapter. Okay, so thank you, Jack, again for that. So that was, and it was interesting because there were 9. I knew that there were 9 of them, and I actually counted them. I could not see their faces because it was just this bright light, but they were also wearing brown capes. And I knew instinctively as I was looking at them that they were wearing those capes for my purpose. So I could know that there were 9 of them. And I still didn't, but I knew instinctively that the one in the middle was the one that somehow was the decision maker. And I was referring to him, mentally, telepathically communicating with him and saying, no, I'm not ready to go. I'm not done yet. I'm not finished on the earth. And it felt like I knew exactly what I wasn't done with yet then. But when I came back, I didn't remember exactly what it was. I think one of them was the finishing the book. So the book was quite a challenge, and it didn't get finished, strangely enough, until my ex-husband died. Then it was like I couldn't stop writing. It was the strangest thing. It was writing constantly. And but before I started to do that, it was very frustrating because nothing was coming out of me. And my husband, he couldn't understand. You just have to write. And I said, but if nothing comes out, how am I supposed to write? Anyway, so frustration galore. And one day I was by myself and I felt these 9 entities coming in very gently. And I was waiting for them to say something. And they said, the book is going to be very helpful to those that are contemplating suicide. And so I said, okay, so I better get to it. So frustration galore. And again, as I said, it didn't get finished until after my ex-husband died. So when just a couple of months or so before I actually finished the book, which was like an incredible purge for me to be able to get it out, I got a message for them again. And they, because I said, what am I going to say? Who are they? What am I going to say to people when they ask who they are? And they said that we are the Lords of Karma. And what I received, it's just a little excerpt from my book that I want to share, if you don't mind. Okay, let's see. It's on page 164, and it's revisited by the 9 entities. In 1915, 3 years after my miracle car crash, I was in the house alone. As I was wondering why I was stuck and unable to write, the same 9 entities visited me. Their presence felt powerful, supportive, and calming. I heard and felt this message. Again, the book will be helpful to those who are contemplating suicide. Without any other explanation, they gently left. I knew within my heart and soul that the message possessed the energy of truth, and that in time I would learn more information. So I knew that. But then when I asked who they were, they briefly just let me know that they're called the Lords of Karma. So so I started to learn a little bit more about the Lords of Karma, and I want to share more about that. Okay, hold on. I'm reading. Okay, so I did some research based on what I was drawn to as far as being able to explain in words, because the energy on the other side is very difficult to put it into earthly words, but this is a good explanation. Now, the lords of karma in general are the ascended masters, a group of spiritually enlightened beings, once mere mortals who have undergone a process of spiritual transformation. They gain mastery over the limitations of the matter plane state of consciousness that transcended the known physical universe, balance at least 51% of negative karma, and fulfill their dharma or divine plan. An ascended master has become godlike and a source of unconditional divine love to all life. And through ascension, spiritual enlightenment, has united with his or own God self, the I am present. They serve as teachers of mankind from the realms of spirit and stand ready to assist them in their ascension. Okay, so that was one explanation that felt right for me to share. And there are many different types. One is called the Moria, and this one is a master, stands as one of ascended master working with Saint Germain to lead the earth into the new age. So that's him. Then there is Saint Germain, who's the ascended master, is the cosmic authority under the seventh ray, the violet ray, the purifying, cleansing power that is raising the earth into the permanent golden age. He tutors and initiates souls in mastery of the seat of the soul chakra, preparing them to receive the Holy Spirit gifts of prophecy and the working of miracles. There's more on that. And I can share this document that I found later if anybody wants it. Okay, so then there is Kutumi. He has a strong association with Master Jesus and his teachings, endearing this master to those who keep faith in the Christ. His help with those of you working on self-awareness is intense, and he bestows special energies into this area. Many of the earth mysteries, which have long been a source of curiosity to humankind, will be clarified through the master spiritual manifestation. Such activities are due in part to the shift in mass consciousness, which also has its effect on life universally. And there is Athena, who's the goddess of truth. So they all specialize in something. There's Kuan Yin, who's known as the goddess of mercy, gentle protectness, and compassion. She holds many titles, even the savior of seamen and fishermen. Okay, so then there is Cyclopeia. I'll spell it Ciclopea. It's the Elohim of God, fifth ray of healing, truth, vision, abundance, and music. His retreat is in the Altai range where China, Russia, and Mongolia meet. Okay, and it goes on to more. Then Mary, that which you see through the raised consciousness and image of the Master Lady Mary, Mother of Jesus, serving as the motherly source of life on earth. She bestows the energies of intuitive wisdom upon those females who aspire to leadership within the community and in world affairs, and gives them courage to establish themselves securely in society. And that goes on. I can tell you that when I do channel and Mother Mary comes through, it's always about offering the energy of motherly love, which is so incredibly beautiful and peaceful. Then there's Sananda. Jesus Christ is known as Sananda in the inner planes. He's the master of the sixth ray, the ray of abstract idealism and devotion, which is indigo. During his incarnation as Jesus, he was high priest in the order of Melchizedek, Melchizedek, and was overshadowed during his life by Lord Maitreya. He also had lives as Adam, Enoch, Joshua, Elijah, and Joseph of Egypt. He works with Archangel Uriel to bring peace, brotherhood, service, and freedom to people. And then it goes on to further explanation. And then there is another one, Lady Portia is one of the lords of karma. She holds the balance of mercy and judgment. She helps those who want to balance heart and head. She will also help those who judge and criticize others from the lower mind to raise their energy to their heart center and be loving toward themselves and others. You may apply in meditation to the lords of karma for release of personal collective karma. If you do this, ask if karma may be released on every level: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, in every dimension and in every reality and universe. Lady Portia is one who frequently offers grace. So this is what I was drawn to share about the lords of karma. But I also know that there are different sets of lords. They specify in different modalities, they have different work. I know that the ones that came to visit me, I was also told that it was they offer help and service to those of us that have chosen to help humankind to bring them to the other side when the time is right, with all these changes on the earth right now. And as all of you have noticed, time is really, really rushing. Have you noticed that? Okay, so with that, I would like to open it up for questions.
Okay, and I think Simone has her hand up.
Very good.
Thank you so much, Tina.
You're welcome. Simone? Hello? I don't hear anything.
Yeah, Simone, you're muted.
I just turned on my mic.
No, Simone.
Yeah.
We're looking for Simone.
Can you hear me now?
I want to ask in your
Hold on, Jack. There's two people that have their hands up. Simone and then Greg.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, or am I still muted?
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, I always find it interesting when people talk about the laws of karma, because I know that I had a very wise friend. Maybe some of you know Pastor Jim Kidd, who passed away about 10 years ago. He was the great pastor at Asylum Hill Church for about 19 years. Anyway, great man. But I had a very good discussion with him one time about the laws of karma. And he reminded me that the whole idea of karma, of course, comes out of a system of oppression, and it was used to justify the caste system in India. So I'm just wondering if you've ever given that any thought and how you might respond to that.
Well, all I can tell you is I gave a little samples of what the Lords of Karma, what their specialties are, some of them. Yep. The 9 ones that I met up with, I was told that they are specifically concentrating on help those of us that have chosen to be of service to others in the ascension process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Greg, is he still around? Is he still wanting to ask?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, very good.
Actually, I want to tag team. I wasn't originally going to tag team, but I want to tag team and tell you what this is. This is just philosophy, not or thought, my own interpretation of karma, and based on like studying NDEs and just what I kind of gathered on what life is like, is supposed to be about. And we're here to learn, and we learn from error, and we learn from mistakes, and those mistakes are life mistakes, and I get through lifetimes as well. And I guess what I'm trying to say is karma is not a punishment. Karma isn't supposed to be a punishment. Karma is supposed to be the lesson.
That's right.
And sometimes you have to keep learning that lesson, and you keep coming back to learn that lesson. But I'll give an example. Like sometimes you have like that same pattern in your life happening over and over and over again. And in a way, like I mean, you could say, well, that's manifestation, that's a law of attraction. And I think that's true, but I think it's also karma. The world's trying to tell you something, and you ain't listening. You got to figure
There's
that
a
out.
theme there, yes.
Yes. And the reason why I originally raised my hand was your statement about time is traveling much faster now. I'm wondering what that's about.
Well, it's about, my understanding is that it has to do with the veil of consciousness being thinner, because there is no time on the other side. So therefore, when the veil gets thinner and thinner, we're all going to be, there isn't going to be any time. We need the time here on the earth, because otherwise appointments would not be kept.
So you would say that the veil between this life and or this realm and the spirit realm are to use everyday terms, I guess, is thin and thinner, and more people are learning who we really are. I almost would agree with that, because no one even knew what the NDEs were before the 1970s, and it was strictly religion, I think, that's my thoughts.
Yeah. Just, it's important not to fear. Just if you ask for clarity and what the lesson is for anything that happens with us, we think that we're victimized. There is no such thing as victimhood. It's all about the lessons. So just continue to ask for clarity, and you'll understand that at a deep level, not necessarily to be able to explain it with words, which is very difficult to do. Okay.
So like a knowing, not like words, but just kind of like a feeling.
Yeah, just beware of the answers. Basically, are all inside. You must ask for them, because they're not supposed to interfere. So ask for the answers to your questions, and just feel it in the gut, in your solar plexus.
Yeah, no, I got you. Ask for ask for the answers. They will not interfere until you ask.
Yeah.
Or intervention or the answers.
Yeah, and you can always email me, Greg, for any further questions. Okay.
Sure, of course. Let's let other people talk.
Very good. Thank you. Bethany, who's next?
Okay, Andrea Corey is next.
Andrea, hi.
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 Hi. Thank you so much, Tina. I'd like to share something. There's a gentleman by the name of Reverend Michael Shane, who's from Seattle. And he was talking about the Lords of Karma. The first one you mentioned was El Moria. Here, I want to show you what he looks like.
Yeah.
What an intense gaze.
Yeah.
And I had been sitting with Michael Shane, and he is quite an extraordinary medium. He does physical mediumship, and he manifested this for me. And
is that the one you shared when you spoke?
Yes, I use it.
Good.
When I speak, I have it in the palm of my hand.
Very
This
nice.
was manifested from El Moria for me. I know this sounds crazy, but that's what it is. And the reason is I had been asking for faith. So, when you say, Tina, you must ask, because how do you go get faith? You can't go to the supermarket and buy faith. You can't read faith. You can't, it's just like, I wanted more faith. Yeah. And so Michael manifested this, and it was given to me. And if you look at El Moria at the center of his head, you see the blue stone?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I use this, and sometimes when I'm all by myself and nobody can actually see what I'm doing, I do put it up on my forehead, and I meditate with it there, and it's extremely, powerful. And I don't know how to explain it, but
No need to.
My faith has completely been transformed. It's so huge now,
Yeah.
and it's changed my life. So thank you for talking about the Lords of Karma. And if anybody is interested in looking up Reverend Michael, that's with a Y, Mychael, Shane, Shane, Michael Shane, he is quite extraordinary.
Thank you,
So thank you,
Andrea.
Tina.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, Andrea? When you said that aqua orb was manifested to you, how do you mean?
I mean that Michael goes in, it's something. Physical mediumship is something to experience. I had never experienced it before Michael. And he will sit in a meditation cabinet, which is actually a very dark little cabinet. It's 3 by 3 by 6 feet high, and it's all enclosed. And he will go into a deep meditation. And all the people in the room around him, me included, will sing and clap and chant and raise the vibration. It's funny. You think, you get really silent and pray. Nope. It's the opposite. It's you raise the vibration, you stomp your feet, you and you raise it and raise it and raise it. And then Michael gives sort of the okay that enough energy has been created, and it's quite something. You can even see videos of it. And these gems all come out of his mouth. They are physically manifested out of his mouth. Yeah. And bigger things come that he just manifests. I know it sounds so crazy. Physical mediumship is a whole other thing. But he manifested this for me, a beautiful crystal ball. Everything that Michael manifests, he cannot sell. But you can make a donation if you want for whatever you receive from him. But it's all a gift from the divine. And it's quite an extraordinary experience to witness him doing physical mediumship. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Back
My
to you, Tina.
understanding, Andrea, my understanding of physical mediumship is that the person's soul actually steps aside and allows the person, the spirit, to enter their body.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of things that happen. One of my children is has a lot of gifts, and he studied with Michael for 9 months. So he lived there. He packed up when he met Michael. He just knew, he said, I'm going to learn this. He packed up and he went to Seattle. Yeah. And he did explain that you actually create ectoplasm, and I don't even understand it, but a lot of people actually thought it was magic. People thought it wasn't real. And so my son spent all this time developing his abilities, and then people thought it was like a magician's trick, which it isn't. But it's beyond my capacity to understand. But if you ever get an opportunity to go to a evening with Michael, do it. Do it. Yeah.
Thank you. So Bethany, is there anyone else wanting to ask questions?
Jack was next. And then I have a question from Boston. But go ahead, Jack.
Okay, Tina, once again, during your NDE, when you had the encounter with the 9 entities, and you described how they had brown capes over them, etc. It sounded like they were hiding what they are, who they were. What were they? Were they orbs of light that were covered with a robe, or what? How did you perceive them?
Well, I knew while I was there in this space, all covered by this incredible loving white light all around the space, I knew that if they had not materialized the brown capes, them wearing the brown capes, it would have been just a big blob of white light. So they did it for my purpose, so I would know that there were 9 of them.
Okay, so but when you say that if they didn't have the cape, there'd be a big blob of light. How I mean, are we talking about the size of a basketball or baseball, How large are they? In your well, you couldn't tell, but you.
Okay, so from my where I was where my soul was standing, it was in front of this very ornate table desk, which you did a great job, and we worked a long time on that. So they were standing behind this ornate, like half a moon shaped desk or table, and they, if I have to guess, from my view, they felt like they were maybe 10 feet away from me, from where I was standing.
I'm
Jack,
sorry. Say that again. That they were what?
it looked to me like they were standing behind this table desk, about 10, maybe 12 feet away from where I was.
Okay.
Okay, very good, Bethany. Thank you. See, this is what you created, Jack, what Bethany is showing.
Wow.
And right here, this white spot just on this side of the desk, that was my soul communicating with them telepathically.
Well, yeah, it was quite a challenge representing this incredible bright white light that was.
Yeah, I know you were asking some very interesting questions. Did a
Anyway,
good job. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, I have my hand up because we have a question from our friends in Boston.
Okay.
The question is, do we all have angels? And who assigned my angel George to me, and why? So do we all have angels, and who assigned my angel George to me, and why?
Okay, so it is my understanding that we all have angels, guides, loved ones that have crossed over, that volunteer to be of service to us. We actually decide to ask those that we think will be of service to us if they would do that, if they would be of service to us while we incarnate. So for whatever purpose, they have to, everyone has to accept. They have to ask, and then they accept. So the one that asked about George, do you know what George is helping you with? Just become aware of where he's being of service to you. If you see a theme of your help from George, that's why you chose him, and you asked him to be of service to you in this lifetime. Susan, did the person hear me? You're welcome. Okay. Very good. Okay, so anyone else?
Yes, we have David Sewage, God took my clothes.
Hi, David.
Hello.
Hi.
Actually, Bethany, my last name is Such. If my name were Such, I would have changed it. So, quick question about karma. Can that cause emotion to be carried from another lifetime to this one, like guilt for something horrible one has done in another lifetime?
David, I'm so sorry, but I was reading what's showing on the screen, and I didn't quite get your question.
I was talking to myself.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Can a strong emotion like guilt for doing something horrible can karma carry that over from another lifetime to this one?
In my sessions with clients, many times previous lifetimes come through, but only for the purpose of being able to release it, heal it and release it. Yes, Guilt
Thank you.
definitely is a human experience that can be carried over through multiple lifetimes. But also, Spirit always says that guilt serves no one. Take the lessons from the experience that was not as good as it should have been, and just use it for yourself. How can that experience help you? Even though it says experience from someone else, how is it helping you? Because if we all concentrating on helping ourselves, if you think about it, no one really would need help because they would be helping themselves. You see that concept?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and it makes sense. I think I understand the lesson I was supposed to learn about not judging others.
Yeah, and usually this is what's interesting, because as a mental medium, I'm able to remember most of the stuff that comes through me for clients. A lot of it, not all, but and what I've noticed that there is a theme going on. It's always, what is the lesson in this for you? This is what Spirit asks my client most of the time. What is the lesson in this for you? Can't ask it for the other person because they're supposed to ask it themselves. So once you get the answer, then you can break that pattern. There's no more need to repeat the lessons.
Absolutely.
Any other? Are you good, David? Okay.
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Very
I
good.
appreciate
All
that.
right. Bethany, anyone else?
Yep. Simone, and then Shelley, and then Greg again.
All right. Very good. Simone?
Yeah, Tina, I was widowed a very long time ago. My first husband died in 1989 when I was 36 years old, and it was a very, very difficult time for me for a long time. I couldn't sleep for 15 months, and my children were very young. They were 4, 9, and 11. And I just never wanted to go through that again. And unfortunately, I lost a son 5 years ago, and 4 weeks ago, my beloved partner of the last 30 years died after a bicycle accident that happened right here in Bloomfield, Connecticut.
Wow.
And, he was so full of life and energy, and I always was sure that I would die first. He was just a few years older than I am, but he was just so much healthier, you know what I mean? He was full of energy and life, and a very great athlete. He did the Ironman at age 68. That's just one example.
Wow.
And he was a cyclist who did about 200 miles a week on his bicycle, and a very expert cyclist. And yet he had a very bizarre accident that broke his neck. And he had his friend who was with him did CPR, and so we had a few moments of hope, but really not really, because there was no brain activity, and he would, if there was any chance of survival, it would have been as a quadriplegic, and I'm sure he would have hated that. So I know that there are things worse than death, but nevertheless, I keep thinking about, why do I have this? If you want to call it karma, why do I have to go through this again? It just seems like I really wanted to die first. My husband, John, back in 1989, had a very powerful near-death experience 12 days before he died. And so he was very elated and happy the last 12 days of his life before a final heart attack that took him at age 44. Wow. And he was very cheerful, and he knew there was nothing to fear. He had a great encounter with a being of light, which I think I've told this group about a long time ago. But anyway, Jim didn't have, such an encounter. He broke his neck when he had the fall off the bike. And even though there was a doctor there almost immediately on the scene, and they tried to save him, but it didn't work, and he died a couple of days later. And so I've been really suffering for the last 4 weeks with not being able to sleep again, and just this terrible feeling of disappointment. And I'm thinking too, is this, you're talking about taking lessons from life. What kind of a lesson can I take from this, of having to go through very heavy grief again? I lost my son at 38, 5 years ago, and now Jim. And although Jim, thank God, had a longer life than my husband, John, he was He was 74, this man, but he had such a delight and delightful way about him, and wanted so much to live and enjoy life and his grandchildren and so many things. And I just feel incredibly disappointed, and also really wish that I had gone first. And I can't understand why I'm stuck here again.
Mm. Yeah, I'm so sorry about your loss. Now, do you live in Bloomfield?
Yeah, I do.
I would like to invite you to come and walk the labyrinth, because a lot of people that come here to walk the largest private labyrinth in Connecticut, I live in Granby, and a lot of people get their answers when they walk it.
Well, how do I find it? What's your address, or when is it open?
It's open all the time. It's just get in touch through my website. You can get in touch with me, and then I'll make sure to meet you here. You come when I'm here, although you can come anytime, and then we can have a discussion if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Milagros?
Yes, Tina, before we go to our next speaker, I wanted to just say that we heard back from Boston that the response was, Tina, my whole life and near-death experience as a child received help from George in all my choices and experiences.
Okay, very good.
And we can go on to Shelley.
Shelley?
Hi, Tina.
Hi, Shelley.
Tomorrow is the 49th anniversary of my father's suicide.
Oh.
And I'm wondering what the lesson is for me in that. I was 14.
Mm. Have you asked?
I never get a clear answer. He says, don't worry about it. And he says he was very depressed. I don't believe he's my angel, but I'm starting to develop a relationship with him now after 49 years. He's come up a lot in the last few days in different ways. I believe my angel is my boyfriend, Michael, who passed away 4 years ago.
Mm. One of them. We have multiple ones.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that a lot of humans are deciding to leave the earth at this stage because they feel that they can help those of us that are still here better. So they only stay on the earth for a short period of time, and then they go back.
Uh-huh. Wow.
The question as far as what's my lesson in this for me must be asked to yourself.
Okay.
And then you just be open to receive whatever answer is there for you.
Okay, I can do that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question comes
Wait a
from
minute,
Greg.
I'm sorry. I missed that, Tina and Shelley. Could you repeat that last part, please? Shelley? No.
What was that?
Oh, when you look at your lungs, yeah,
Jack, who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Shelley Albini.
Yeah, hi, Jack. I love you.
Hi, Shelley. We miss you. What was the last part? My
That
hearing
I
aid.
A lot.
That I have to ask myself what the lesson is. That I have to ask myself what the lesson is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to go off. I have to eat dinner.
Okay.
Thank you, Tina. I'm going to look you up on YouTube.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Shelley. And our next question is from Greg, and then I have a question from Boston.
Okay. Hi, Greg.
Hi, me again.
Yes.
So comment and then really a question. So I used to frequent the city of Salem a lot when I was in college. I went to college in Lowell. And one time, so I gotta say, actually, when I was 12, my great grandmother passed away, and the first time I heard anything of an NDE, I didn't even know it was called an NDE. Was her story back in back then. It was like 1989, and what happened was she was gravely ill, and she calls my mother, and she says, "I'll be taking care of your baby soon." And she said, "What are you talking about?" My mother had a miscarriage, so we thought she was probably talking about that. And she tells a story about how she saw my kid's squawking.
Yeah.
How she saw this bright light and the Virgin Mary and my Uncle David, someone else. And long story short, my great grandfather said when she passed away, probably like a week later, she had a smile on her face. Now, when I heard that story, I was like, oh, wow, the stuff we learned in church is kind of true. I was like 12, Well, fast forward, I'm in Salem and I go to these meditations on Monday night, but this time I went on Tuesday and it was a different and one of the participants was a woman who could only speak through a board, like she couldn't talk. So she used like a board to spell letters out. And she was the girlfriend or the partner of the guy leading the meditation. And I remember they said, so what'd you think? We used to go around the circle and say, like, what do you think? And I remember I was like, I don't know. I felt like today really wasn't that good, right? So he goes, well, we see a being over you. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, we think it's like some grandmother or something. I'm thinking it's like my grandmother from my father's side who passed in '86, because at the time my other grandmother was quite alive. And this woman starts like laughing, and he's like, yeah, she's saying it totally is her. I'm like, all right. And now I'm kind of like, all right, the skeptic in me said, well, what's the name? So I'm expecting to hear Sylvia because that was the name of my father's mother. And I hear Loria or Lori or something. And Loria was my great grandmother. And I thought about that later, about the whole, I would be taking care of your baby. And it was really like not referring to the miscarried child, but me perhaps. So I thought about that. But the question I really had has to do with, being psychic. So I've been told I'm psychic, but the problem is I question things a lot. And there's ego that gets in there a lot. But I mean, when I was kind of hanging out with these people a lot, they said they picked up and knew that I had psychic abilities, but was really like holding them back. And I think my mother kind of has, and I have a feeling like my son Adam is very psychic, but the thing is, yeah, I don't think you are though, buddy.
He's only 2. You don't know anything.
He's 2. We don't know yet. But Adam stares at things, so I think he sees things. But the thing is like I question a lot of what I'm getting, because some of it is a risk-growth thinking, or am I really like getting guidance, And I think we all have that issue, I guess. I don't know. So that's it.
If you ever get drawn to getting my book, there is a chapter that I put in there that was very important to me, and it's how to practice, because it's all about practicing. All of us are psychic. We have that ability, but then we concentrate on doing other things depending on what contract that we sign. But you can start at any time, at any age, practice. And do it in a written format to begin with, because there is power in the written word.
More than spoken word?
Because the written word, in this case, as far as practicing to channel, has to do with the fact that you can go back. Anything that doesn't make sense to you while it's happening, it might make sense to you later on. Okay?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Bethany, what is your question?
My question comes from Boston, and then after that, Andrea has her hand up. My question is, this is from someone in Boston. When I had my NDE at age 9, I met a being of light who took me to another being of light. Then the second being of light embraced me and talked with me about why I could not stay there. Could this second being of light be my guide angel, who has just recently, at 53 years later, revealed his or her name to me?
If that is the first gut feeling you had when that happened, trust it. Never second guess yourself. The gut never lies.
Thank you, Tina. And I'll turn this over to Andrea.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Tina.
Hi.
Can you tell us about that magnificent angel that surrounded your house?
The garage.
Yeah.
That's the cover page of my book right
Yeah.
there. But,
Can
yeah.
you tell us about that angel?
Well, that was an interesting situation because I was really being very, I was feeling sorry for myself, stuff that was happening with my parents and me. I was overwhelmed with, things to do. And so I was driving into my driveway. I live in the country, so there were no lights. And my kids forgot to keep the lights on. So there I was saying, oh, I know that they're angels, but I bet mine are, because I had been watching a show the night before when I couldn't sleep. And they were talking about that depending on what our contracts are, depending on what we're supposed to be doing here on the earth, that's the energy of the angels. So the guides that we have, that's how big they are. And so remembering this from the night before, I was, as I was driving in and looking for my key, I was saying, oh, I bet my angels are not that big because my work isn't important. And why isn't it? Just, blah, blah, blah. And so before I could find the key, I heard this voice, and it was so deep. It felt like it was coming from me and throughout the whole area, from everywhere. And it said, turn around. So as I turned, there it was. That it was, my garage is 24 by 40 in its double-decker gambrel roof. This entity was on the right side in the back, and with the wings spread wide open, it was about 3 times larger than that garage. Wow. And the next thing I hear was, is this big enough for you? So I was reminded of the humor is important. And so all I kept saying is, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then as I was saying that, I finally found the key, and I went in, and I had to go outside again. So did I really see what I saw? And I kept, I said, well, who are you? And she said that her name was Naomi. And that she was the same one that used to come and visit me as a child in Italy. That experience was very, very pivotal for me to finally accept this gift, that I have this contract. And she also said that it was, all I had to do was just allow and trust, and they would do the rest. It was like a big weight off my shoulder that I didn't have to be responsible for what was coming out of me. And so that was very pivotal part of it. I don't know what to call that, but you could call it, I guess, a life-changing experience. But that was very, very pivotal. And that's why when my granddaughter, who we were making cookies together, and I said to her, she was 4 years old, Olivia, the oldest one. I said, Olivia, did I tell you that I'm writing a book? And she says, no, Nini, you didn't tell me. Are you going to have a chapter on angels? Because we had been talking about angels. I said, yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot about angels. And what is the title? I said, I have no idea yet. Why don't you ask them? So she went like this, talk as if she was talking to the angel. And then she says, oh, we are angels. I said, is that the title of the book? And she says, that's what they said, Mimi. So I kind of brushed it aside, thinking, okay, she's just a child. And then I started to do some research, and no title like that existed. So finally, I claimed it, and I actually had my website as weareangels.net. It was being safe for me, I felt.
Nice.
And so everything is meant to be. Bethany?
Thank you.
Did you finish? Are you okay, Andrea? All right. Go ahead. Bethany?
Yeah, thank you, Tina. I know that you have Naomi as a guide, but you also talk about two feathers. Can you share a little bit about two feathers and maybe how you met?
Yeah, two feathers. I was dealing, and I put this in more details in the book, but I was dealing with a very, it was kind of, I was afraid. I didn't want to deal with this because this gentleman was a very powerful attorney, but he decided to take advantage of me, and I knew that I needed to do something, and I was afraid. And so I was just sitting there one day, and I said, I don't know how to do. I know I need to do this. What do I do? All of a sudden, right in front of my face, I opened my eyes, and there it was, this big uh, indigenous man. He looked like he was probably around, from the looks, around maybe 50, 60, with long, silver long hair going down his shoulders. And he had two feathers just coming down. They were not up. I learned later that when the feathers are up, they're supposed to be warriors, but his feathers were down. And that's when I learned that he is a shaman. And I learned later that he was a shaman in the northeastern part of Arizona. He was on the earth about 200-300 years ago, but he's still a shaman, he says. Anyway, so I said, oh, that's a strange name. So I got up and I walked through my driveway going across the street to get the mail. And midway through the driveway, I looked down and there were two feathers on the ground, just sitting there. And I picked them up and I said, okay, I believe you. So that's a little story on that one. Does that bring up questions or comments, anything?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tina,
yes.
thank.
Andrea.
Are there any more questions, Bethany?
Yeah, I think Andrea has a question.
I just want to say thank you, Tina, because I too work with an Indian guide, and he gave me very sound, basic advice on my relationship. Like, he came to me and he said, you got to do this, you got to do that. Anyhow, I just want to say thank you for talking about your Indian guide, because they have such wisdom and they want to help us.
They do.
They want to be a part of our lives. This is a picture of my guide. I mean, I just happen to have it right here. His name is Ma Min.
All right.
And he was from the Pacific Northwest. And one day I left my partner in a huff and a puff, and I took off and I drove an hour away, and I sat there and I said, I can't do this anymore. And Ma Min came to me and he said, you go back. He said, you go back, you pack your things, and you leave like a lady.
Yeah.
And he helped me. And we have many, many Indian guides around us, and they want to be remembered and to be called upon. So thank you.
Yeah, one of the themes that I have with him is that whenever I have something very important to do or some challenging situation, he always lets me know that he's around. Like 2 days before I did the event yesterday by the waterfall, I channeled by the waterfall. I found a hawk feather. So all day I was looking for the other feather, because usually
two.
I see, there's always two.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I said, where is that feather? The next day, I went next door, which I have an apartment that the tenants are going to be moving in October. So I opened the door to go do something in there, and there was the other feather inside the door.
Nice.
Okay. It wasn't as big as the other one, but definitely I could see there was a hawk because of the shape. So it's like talking about synchronicity. They keep me laughing all the time. No boredom here. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, so Jack.
Well, Bethany, first of all, Tina, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Bethany, before you and Jim tell us about the conference, could you quickly, you or Andrea, quickly tell us how does someone get on the list or whatever for the healing and loving meditation? What do we have to do?
Well, let people know what we're intending to do.
Yes.
Well,
So,
okay, that's true. You know, there are new people here. Could you briefly tell us about what the mission is of the healing and loving meditation on the 17th?